Welcome to Paradigm Shifts, new thinking about our changing times with your host, Harriette M. Steinberg, practicing matrimonial and family law, real estate, trust and estates, and elder law. You can watch episodes on YouTube and listen through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. For prior episodes, go to www.lawyersonli.com. Now here's the host of Paradigm Shifts, Harriette Steinberg.
Hi, I'm Harriette Steinberg, also known as the Divorce Sherpa. I'm an attorney practicing in the areas of matrimonial and family law, elder law, trusts and estates, and estate planning. My process when working with clients is mediation and collaborative practice. In each of our episodes of Paradigm Shifts, we are now going to be talking about change in our lifestyles. We'll be talking about matrimonial changes, living changes like death, retirement, divorce, and all kinds of things that are affecting our lifestyles. Today, it's my pleasure to have as our guest, James P. Joseph. James is the principal of the Joseph Law Firm, a boutique matrimonial law firm on Long Island. And well, let me have James tell us a little bit about who he is. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Harriette. Nice to see you as always.
So tell us.
I was thinking you and I go back probably 20 years at this point.
Whoa.
Yes, it went quick.
Yes, it did. It did.
Yeah.
Lots of paradigm shifts. Yeah.
Very much so, because I think we first met with some very difficult divorce litigation, and then we really got to know each other when I followed you down the collaborative path. And I always look behind me at those books, and I see I did that initial training in 2009. So
Whoa.
I think, yes. So I think at that point you were already fairly experienced in that arena, and together we've worked hard to make sure that that people are aware of this option, and that there's a healthier way to divorce. So personally, I had a 5-attorney firm. All we do is matrimonial and family law. We're based in Garden City, and we cover all of Long Island. I've been practicing for just about 30 years now, and in recent years really have made my own paradigm shift as I realized that I could offer more to our community by really heading my firm and stepping back a little bit from the day-to-day practice. One of the things that we both have spoken about over the years is how difficult this practice is, certainly on the parties, but also on the attorneys. And so many of our colleagues I have found are very well intentioned, but they get very overwhelmed by the work. It's exhausting, emotionally draining work. I think if you care, and I think most lawyers do care, it really takes its toll. So I've worked hard to set up a law firm where the attorneys are able to have a reasonable caseload, so that I can make sure they're not burnt out, and that they can really do what they set out to do, which is to help people in the best way possible. So that's a little background on me and our firm.
And I tell the news on the street, as they say, you've recently added a new hire to the firm, have you not?
We did, and we were very excited. Jackie Caputo, who's been practicing for almost 20 years, and we both have known her for many years. She's really been focusing her practice. She just does matrimonial and family law for really all of her career. But in recent years, she has focused on mediation and collaborative practice. And her goal was to reach a point where that's all she did. She has a lot of wins as a litigator, but this really spoke to her as a alternative method that was healthier for people. And that really dovetailed nicely with what we were doing with our firm. We were myself and one of my partners, John Whiteman, had developed a nice reputation individually, each of us as mediators. I was getting pulled into a lot of litigated cases to help mediate. Both the courts were appointing me and another one of my partners, Tom Elliott, as special masters. And then I
Yes.
was also picking up individually, people would come to me, our colleagues, and they would say, hey, we have this case that's gone on for years. We're bogged down in the court system. The clients are running out of money, running out of steam, and can you please help us resolve it? And so we saw the demand, but I really felt strongly that it would make a lot of sense to have somebody heading a department and somebody who really focused solely on that type of practice, so that the rest of us could handle the litigated cases. And Jackie was the perfect fit. I mean, we just felt so fortunate that she was interested in coming on board with us.
And, I have to say thank you on behalf of the rest of us in the collaborative practice world and in mediation, because your paradigm shift is going to contribute to our paradigm shifts. In fact, I was going to ask you, what do you see as the future for divorce?
I do believe,
Yeah.
yes, that this will continue to take hold. We've seen a real increase in mediated cases, which is wonderful. For the right parties, it's a much healthier way to resolve their divorces. Collaborative, you in particular, myself and a handful of others have worked really hard to ensure that it gains ground in New York. And I have friends, I was away last week on a trip in Florida, a business trip, and I have friends down in Texas, down in Florida, who are really well-respected attorneys, matrimonial attorneys in their region, and they tell me that half their caseload is now collaborative. And
Really?
amazing and really wonderful to hear, and a little disheartening that it hasn't taken hold yet in New York. I think we'll get there. I do believe that particularly, the pandemic really slowed things down even further in litigation. Our courts have worked very hard to reopen and to bring things back to normal. And in many ways, they've become more efficient, but there's a backlog. And it always took, for a litigated case, a litigated divorce case, it would always take easily a couple of years, if not longer. The backlog is even greater now. And so I think the public is particularly primed to see the benefits of alternative methods of resolving their divorces, and collaborative, it is a wonderful, wonderful method that I think, we've always focused on not doing more damage to a couple. It was always important for us to be proactive, to move our cases as
Yeah.
quickly as reasonably possible for the sake of our client, but for their family as well, because we saw how much damage the litigated divorce did. I think we're seeing it even more now, and I think the public is becoming much more receptive to, hey, there's a better way, there's a healthier way to do this. I don't have to destroy my spouse to come out in the best place possible.
Exactly. And I'll tell you a secret. I've just volunteered, and my husband has always said, you don't volunteer, but you know who we are. Anyway, I volunteered to head the social media committee for the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals. And it's going to be my focus to create the paradigm shift with all of our professional colleagues, to start using social media to spread the word, because I really believe, just as we've seen with mediation, I remember when mediation was first introduced, people were not quickly running to that process. And now, as you say, an awful lot of cases, people are coming in and asking for mediation. Sometimes it's not appropriate for the couple, that what their individual facts and relationship factors really mitigate against mediation, but collaborative practice would be perfect because it gives the couples certainly more support in what they're doing. So anyway, I've now taken on the burden, and it is a burden because we've got to have a paradigm shift with our colleagues, and we know how lawyers feel about change, or other lawyers feel about change. I know you and I, we're the innovators, or as my daughter says, the disruptors.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, kudos to you, Harriet, for taking on that role and that burden.
Yeah.
We're very, as a member of the NYACP, I thank you. We're very
You're
fortunate
welcome.
to have, I was speaking about you when I was away in Florida, and with knowing that this podcast was coming up and sharing with some of my colleagues how you've always been, cutting edge and moving forward, and how impressed I have been, and the impact that you've had. I really give you credit for getting this going, collaborative practice here, and that you remain committed. We put in quite a few hours over many years,
Yes.
countless hours trying to get this to gain some more traction, and it has.
Yes.
I don't think we've hit the critical mass yet, but hopefully with this new role that you're taking on, that will
Yeah.
put us over and really make an impact.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly hoping so. And, I just keep going. We'll keep going. So let me ask you this, James. What tips do you have if you were speaking to divorcing or people who are thinking about divorce? What could you tell them?
We feel strongly that that they need to have clear, defined goals that are reasonable. When attorney selection is so important. We just took over a case from another lawyer who had really, maybe well intentioned, but had led his client down a very unrealistic path. They were, the husband had been, relatively successful, had a nice career, but unfortunately, addiction got in the way, and he's no longer working. And the attorney was convinced that if he fought hard enough, he would get blood from a stone. And of course, we know that's not possible. And she wasted a lot of money and a lot of heartache, and a couple of years of litigation before she realized that she was going down a bad path. And so one of the tips is be really careful when you hire an attorney. I always say the promises we make are few. I promise our clients that we're very good at what we do and that we're going to work really hard for them. And I tell them if an attorney promises you more than that, there's a good chance they're mistaken or lying, because you never know what happens if you're in court. When you're in court, you lose control over the process, and a judge will decide, and a judge will not have all of the information because it's not possible, because they will never get to know the couple the way the couple knows each other. And so I think it's really important who they choose as an attorney. I think the process they decide upon, that's, in large part what you and I have become really sensitive to, that there are these other processes. You don't, just because you're divorcing, you don't need to go to war. You don't need to go to court. We counsel all of our clients to be in therapy. I tell them that all of my attorneys here and many divorce lawyers, we can be pretty insightful because we've seen quite a bit. But our training is law, not mental health, and our hourly rates are not the same as mental health practitioners. They're generally much higher. So I tell people, go to the expert. We're a shoulder to cry on, but that's not a good use of your time or your money. And that's not the role that we want to play. We want to help people divorce. We want to help them, get ready for that next chapter in their lives. So we push our clients hard to all be in therapy, not because they're presenting necessarily with any significant mental health issue, but because they're facing a crisis. They're about to go down a path that, even if they've been divorced before, they really have no formal training. We don't learn in school how to handle the emotions of the breakdown of a marriage. And we have found that our clients that are in therapy are better clients. They're easier for us to guide. So we believe, and I've never tried to quantify it, I don't think I could, but we're pretty confident that they spend less money on us and we get better results. So those are, a couple of the pointers that I would give, right up front, and that we do give right up front to divorcing parties.
As you speak, it reminds me of one of the major benefits that we have in collaborative practice. Working as a team with a family coach who is a mental health person gives everyone in the process the benefit of seeing the couple through the lens of the mental health person. And it makes all the difference. Every time this happens, I'm so totally surprised at the difference that the information that we get from having that mental health element as a participant in our process. So I think this is great, good advice. And as you say, divorce is a grieving process, really so. And people don't normally have the experience of divorces to help them through the process. So with that, I'm going to say that I've enjoyed listening to you and speaking with you. And I look forward to more collaborative divorce cases coming from the office of the Joseph Law Group. And maybe we'll be successful very shortly in spreading the word on social media. So thank you, James, for meeting with us and giving us your perspective. Bye now.
Thank you, Harriet. Really a pleasure. You take care.
Thank you for listening to Paradigm Shifts, new thinking about our changing times with your host, Harriette M. Steinberg, practicing matrimonial and family law, real estate, trust and estates, and elder law. You can watch episodes on YouTube and listen to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more.